a group of heroes are summoned from another world, and they are greeted by a princess. They have their powers appraised, and they are all gifted with unique skills, like the holy sword technique, and the ability to use all kinds of magic. We then meet Mukata, and when he gets appraised, he has a strange online grocery skill. Mukata is shocked hearing this, thinking his skill is useless, and wonders if he has anything else, but gets told that that is his only unique skill. He becomes devastated, and wonders why all the others got such overpowered skills. Despite this, he gets told that he will still need to have an audience with the king. The heroes have an audience with the king, and he explains that their kingdom has been getting attacked by the demon king. He asks for their help, and the three heroes quickly offer themselves to help. Mukata, on the other hand, decides he isn't cut out for being a hero, thinking he would only get in the way, and says he just wants to have a simple life. He ends up getting out, and they even send him off with 20 gold coins. In the town, he starts attracting people's attention with his strange attire, so he quickly buys a change of clothes. He goes around, trying to learn about this world, and ends up getting a room at the inn. He is relieved he decided not to be a hero, finding the king suspicious with how luxurious they seemed, and decides he should leave the kingdom as soon as he can. Mukata checks out his stats, and sees he has an item storage skill, and an appraisal skill. He tries calling out for his online grocery skill, but nothing happens. He wonders how his skill works, and he ends up tapping on it, which brings up a page for his online shop. Mukata tries using it, ordering some water and some food. He tries to check out, but it asks for money, and he finds he can deposit his coins into the screen. After confirming his order, a package instantly appears, containing his items, and Mukata is happy that his skill is actually useful. He ends up learning that a gold coin is worth about $100, and the 20 gold he was given would be enough for a family to live for 3 months. The next day, Mukata finds a ride to get out of the kingdom. Along the way, he meets a merchant, and after talking with him, he finds out his item storage skill is actually super rare, with only 1 in 1,000 people having access to the skill. Hearing this, Mukata goes on to ask about the appraisal skill, and the man reveals that that is even rarer, because only heroes summoned from another world can possess the skill. Mukata gets nervous hearing this, and tries not to be suspicious. The man asks him where he is headed, and Mukata tells him he is trying to get to the next kingdom. The man tells him getting out is a smart decision, because the kingdom is headed for destruction, and there are rumors that the borders are about to close. Mukata is shocked to hear this, and in the end, their carriage ends up getting suspended. At the local tavern, Mukata learns that the carriage services were stopped so people can't run away to the neighboring countries. Because if people run away, the kingdom's army would decrease in size. So the men suggest that they should get out while they still can. Mukata wonders how to get out, worrying about the monsters he might encounter. He ends up heading to the Adventurers Guild, and puts in a request for an escort to get out of the kingdom. The clerk tells him that since he is on foot, it would take a number of days, so the cost would be 8 gold. Mukata is alarmed at the price, but seeing he has no other options, he agrees to the price. The clerk calls over an adventurer, and we meet Werner, a C-ranked adventurer. They negotiate the mission, and Mukata offers to provide them with food during their journey, and they come to an agreement. They prepare to set off the next day, and Werner introduces the rest of his party. There's Vincent the swordsman, Rita the scout, Ramon the mage, and Fanka the healer. They head on their way, and soon stop for a break. Mukata goes to prepare some food, pulling a stove out of his storage. Vincent is surprised to see the storage skill, and Rita is impressed at his magic stove. We see in a flashback, at a store, the shopkeeper tries to sell him a magic stove for 50 gold, but instead, he was able to find a cheap portable stove from his online shop. He ends up making some soup and sandwiches, and when the party tries it, they are amazed. Ramon finds the soup to be delicious, but it was actually just some instant soup. They find the bread is super soft, calling it the best bread they have ever tasted, and are glad they took this mission. The group continues on their way, but get attacked by some monsters. Werner and Vincent are able to swiftly take them out, but Mukata is startled at the scene. As they get healed up, Rita reports that there is a red boar ahead. They discuss how to deal with it, but it suddenly appears, and Mukata is shocked at its size. Werner tells him to get cover, and they proceed to battle against the boar. The boar is defeated, and Mokata is impressed at their strength. They end up skinning the boar for its skin and horns, but there is too much meat for them to carry, so Mokata suggests putting the meat in his storage. They decide to stop for dinner, and the group is looking forward to eating his food. They crowd around him to watch, but Mokata gets worried, saying he gets embarrassed, but in reality, he doesn't want to reveal his special skill. He gets to cooking, combining bacon, cabbage, potatoes, and even adding sausages to create a delicious stew. He hands out the bowls to everyone, and as they eat, Mokata wonders if it's not to their taste, but they are soon stuffing themselves, and they all ask for seconds. Mokata is surprised they like it that much, and Ramon reveals that they normally eat jerky and hard breads when they are traveling. Rita even feels her body in better shape thanks to the meal. Mokata finds this a bit strange, and decides to use his appraisal skill. He is shocked to see Rita has boosted stats, and when he appraises the food, he sees that it grants a buff. Mokata starts to get worried, thinking if someone were to find out, he could be in danger, so he is determined to keep it a secret. But there is a beast that watches them from the bushes. The party continues on their journey. A few days away from the next kingdom, they set up camp in a forest, and Mokata decides to cook some of the boar meat for their dinner. He starts preparing the meat, slicing it up into pieces, and he uses a special sauce from his shop to flavor it. As he starts cooking it, the others are amazed at the smell, and it even attracts the attention of the beast. When Mokata is finished, the others stare in awe. As they try it, they are immediately blown away, having never tasted something like this before. They all praise Mokata, but he just thanks his secret sauce. As Mokata discusses his cooking method, their faces suddenly turn to fear, and the beast has emerged from behind him. They are shocked to see a Fenrir, and it speaks to them, demanding to have some of the meat. Mokata quickly gives it a plate, and it eats it with a single bite. It demands for more, and Mokata asks it to wait while he makes more. The beast agrees, and Mokata quickly prepares more meat. He has a huge plate, but the beast devours it and demands more. Mokata keeps cooking, while the beast keeps eating and demanding for more. After cooking again and again, the beast is eventually satisfied. The beast is impressed Mokata managed to satisfy him and decides to form a familiar contract with him. Mokata thinks it's a bad idea and tries to refuse, but the beast gives him an intense stare, and he just can't refuse. His friends encourage him, and he reluctantly agrees. The beast's head starts to glow, and the two form the contract. With this, the beast tells Mokata that he is now responsible for taking care of him, expecting 3 meals a day, and Mokata is left shocked at what he has gotten himself into. As part of the contract, the beast tells him to give him a name. Mokata tries to think, coming up with common dog names, but the beast is not impressed. Seeing it is a Fenrir, Mokata suggests Fel, and the beast agrees. As the party continues on, the people avoid them, and Werner worries that they won't be able to get past the border. Rita explains that there is a legend where a Fenrir destroyed a whole country, and Franca says it definitely happened. Mokata starts to worry, but Fel tells him he will destroy anyone that messes with them, but this just makes them more nervous. They have a break for lunch, and as Mokata goes to prepare the food, he realizes he is out of meat. When Fel demands to have meat, Mokata says he eats too much and tells him to catch his own food. Fel agrees with this and heads into the forest, leaving the rest of the party amazed that he can already command the beast. Fel soon returns, bringing back a rock bird, and Werner is surprised, saying that it is a B-ranked monster that they normally would struggle to defeat. Its beak and claws are valuable, and Fel lets them have the materials, as long as he gets the meat. Mokata starts preparing their lunch, treating it like chicken. He uses teriyaki sauce for flavor. He serves the party, and Fel wonders about his share. Mokata tells him since he eats so much, he will need to wait until the end, and he patiently waits his turn. Mokata makes a huge portion for Fel, and he happily eats it all. After that, the party makes it to the border of the kingdom of Venan. The guards are on high alert, and Werner says they are preparing for Fel. He tells them to wait, while he heads down to explain the situation. Mokata wonders if it's going to be okay, and they soon end up completely surrounded. The commander worries about letting in a beast that can destroy a country, but Mokata tells Fel not to cause any trouble, and Fel says he will only destroy those that harm them. The soldiers are amazed it can talk, and the commander ends up agreeing to let them in, warning Mokata to keep Fel in check. So Mokata tells Fel he won't give him food if he causes problems. As they enter, the party show their guild cards, but Mokata doesn't have one, so he is forced to pay to get in. They finally get in, and Werner warns Mokata that people will be after him when they hear he has a legendary familiar. Mokata despairs, thinking he had gotten away from the politics, but says he won't be staying for too long, planning to continue traveling and making money using his unique shop skill. Werner suggests it would be helpful to join a guild, and Mokata considers the Merchant Guild. However, Vincent points out that the Adventurers Guild would be able to help with skinning and buying the materials from the beasts that Fel hunts, so Mokata struggles to decide. But Franca says that although it's not common, it's possible to just register for both guilds. The party heads into the town, and Mokata is hit with another fee. There is a servant that instantly greets him, inviting him to meet the Count as a legendary beast tamer. Mokata doesn't want to go, and tries to turn him down, but the man is insistent that he comes with him. However, when Fel approaches, he threatens the man, who runs off terrified. Werner worries about making an enemy, but Fel says he can handle anything they throw at them. Vincent suggests they would need a dragon to go up against Fel. Mokata is shocked to learn there are dragons, and Fel agrees that a dragon would be the only thing that could match him, saying he once fought against one 400 years ago. Werner gets Mokata to sign off on their job, and Mokata is surprised he can understand the language, thinking it must be a skill that heroes are summoned with. The group thanks him for all the delicious food, and the party goes their separate ways. Mokata heads over to the Merchant Guild, and the people around try to avoid him. As he enters, everyone turns their attention to him, nervous at the sight of Fel. Mokata requests to join the guild, and the clerk explains that there are 5 levels of merchants, which determines the level of fees and taxes. She offers him the iron rank and hands him his guild card. Later, Mokata finds that beasts aren't allowed to stay at the inn, but Fel is more interested in what's for dinner. Mokata starts preparing the meat, but suddenly gets a craving for rice, so he picks up another stove from his shop. As he cooks, Fel watches eagerly. He finishes it off with a sauce, and Fel devours it, finding it to be delicious. Mokata gives him another steak, but Fel notices a change in the flavor. Mokata reveals he has different sauces, and Fel is amazed that the same meat can taste completely different. But in the end, Fel really likes the garlic flavor. Mokata cooks for himself, making a delicious beef bowl, and he blows himself away, causing Fel to also want some of what he is having. Although it's not something he would normally eat, he finds the rice to be tasty. Meanwhile, the adventurer party is back to eating jerky, and wishing they could see Mokata again to eat his delicious food. As Mokata goes to rest for the night, he quickly prepares the goods he plans on selling. The next day, Mokata heads back to the Merchant Guild, wanting to sell some of his goods. When the clerk checks out what he has, she is shocked and runs off. Mokata wonders if there is a problem, but she ends up inviting him inside. He meets with the guild master, who examines his goods. The guild master tells him that the quality of his salt and pepper is exceptional, even fit for a king. He wonders how Mokata came across such product, and it turns out he just bought it from his shop. But Mokata says he came across it during his travels, and the guild master respects his privacy. The guild master offers to buy everything for 14 gold, shocking Mokata because it only cost him 5 copper each. As he considers the exchange rate, the guild master thinks he is reluctant and ends up offering even more money, upping his offer all the way to 17 gold, and Mokata accepts the deal. He can't believe how easy it is to make money, and now he won't need to worry about making money for a while. He heads over to the Adventurers Guild next, and the atmosphere is completely different. He tells the clerk he wants to join, but she is disinterested, and just hands him a form. After he fills it out, she throws him his card, saying he starts at G rank, and he wonders if he could have an explanation about the guild. The girl sighs, and explains that adventurers are ranked from G to S rank. He is able to take missions up to 1 level higher than his rank, and the guild takes no responsibility for any injuries or death. Mokata checks out the job board, and finds an easy herb gathering mission to start with. Fel tells him it's time to eat again, saying he would be happy with eating the garlic steak every day. But Mukata tells him there are other foods that are just as good. Mukata makes the garlic steak for him again, but suddenly thinks that garlic might be bad for dogs, so he uses his appraisal skill to make sure, and is blown away when he sees Fel's outrageous stats, realizing why he is a legendary beast. The next day, Mukata starts getting ready, preparing to set off on his mission, but Fel glares at him, demanding that it's time for breakfast. The two make it to the fields, but Fel says he is still hungry. There wasn't enough ingredients, so Mukata tells him he should go hunting again. Fel agrees, but worries about Mukata's safety if he is not around, saying he can feel that there are monsters around. Fel tells him not to worry, casting a protective barrier on him. He dashes off, telling Mukata to have lunch prepared for him. Mukata starts his quest, searching for his herds, but it's an easy task for him because he can use his appraisal skill on the field to easily find the right herds. He is able to easily complete the mission, and even wonders if he will get a bigger reward for collecting more than the requested amount. With his mission complete, he decides to start making lunch. Since he is out of meat, he decides to make a cheap meal he can buy from his shop, which turns out to be spaghetti. As he is preparing the meal, Fel returns with a rock bird, saying he enjoyed the teriyaki from the other day. He says he hunted other monsters as well, but couldn't bring them all at once, but Mukata tells him they can pick it up later. Mukata finishes off preparing the spaghetti, but remembers the final ingredient, picking up some Parmesan cheese. Fel finds the spaghetti to be strange, but Mukata explains it is food from his own world. When Fel tries it, he is pleasantly surprised, enjoying it even though there isn't as much meat. Mukata tells him to try out the cheese powder, and Fel is amazed at the richer flavor. Fel ends up making a mess, getting the sauce all over himself, as Mukata laughs at the sight. Mukata is suddenly shocked when he sees the mountain of monsters that Fel hunted. There are all kinds of monsters, and Mukata starts stuffing them into his storage. He wonders if everything is edible when he recognizes an orc, but Fel tells him that orcs are considered delicacies, essentially just treating them as walking pigs. With all the monsters stored up, it's time to head back to the town. Fel tells Mukata he can ride on him, saying it's too slow to just walk. Mukata is surprised to hear this and gets onto him. They take off, and Mukata starts panicking when they go too fast, struggling to hold on as Fel dashes back to the town. They make it back, and Mukata is glad he is still in one piece. He wonders what if he had fallen off, but Fel says that would be his own fault. So Mukata reminds him that if anything happened to him, he wouldn't be able to eat his food anymore. Mukata heads to the Adventurers Guild and hands in the herds. The girl is surprised he has so many, saying he must have gotten lucky, and pays him 9 silver for the herds. Mukata then asks about selling monsters, surprising the girl, but he points over to Fel, and the girl is stunned to see him. She quickly regains her composure and points him over to the guild butcher. Mukata pulls out an orc, and the man worries about space, so they head out to the back. The butcher tells Mukata he has heard about him from the rumors around town. Mukata pulls out the mountain of monsters, shocking the man with the amount, and that there are also some A-ranked monsters. Mukata asks him to skin all the monsters, saying he will sell all the materials except for the meat. With so many monsters, the butcher tells him to come back the next day. Mukata asks him to skin one of the monsters so they can have something for dinner, so the man prepares one of the orcs for him. Mukata starts preparing dinner, and we learn his storage skill can keep his food from spoiling. He cuts up the orc meat, coating it with flour, and fries it up. He finishes it off with some leftover sauce from that lunch. Fel devours the food, saying that orc meat is much more tender than regular boar meat. Mukata is turned off by the image of the orc, but when he tastes it, he is pleasantly surprised, learning not to judge things before trying them out. The next morning, Mukata heads back to the butcher's. There is a mountain of meat, and the man hands him his gold for all the materials. He is paid 202 gold, and Mukata is shocked at the amount of money. The man tells him he can't be so clueless, teaching him about the value of certain materials, like orc testicles, which are good for strength, and boar tusks that can be used for crafting. The man also hands him some demonic stones that contain magic powers and are dropped from the A-ranked monsters. The man tells him that people around town have been talking about him, debating about whether Fel is really a Fenrir or just a great wolf. As Mokata walks through town, he can hear the people debating. He thinks it's time that they left, and tells Fel they shouldn't stay in the same place for too long. Fel says he doesn't mind, but says he is hungry again after seeing the mountain of meat. The two make their way out of the town and find a place to set up camp. As Mokata goes to prepare dinner, he decides to treat Fel to a feast since he made him so much money. He pulls up his shop, showing Fel all the meats from his world, and he suddenly thinks it's raining, but it's really just Fel drooling over seeing the options. Mokata orders a bunch of food and creates a platter of mixed meat from his world. Fel is amazed by the different textures and flavors, having never eaten such foods before. Mokata follows up with the main dish, cooking up some Japanese black wagyu, but Fel is disappointed by its small size. However, when he tastes it, he is instantly blown away, and Mokata tells him it's from a cow that was specially raised. Fel is surprised that people in his world raise their food, since monsters just appear in this world, but he can't argue with the results. Meanwhile in the town, we see the two guild clerks chatting about Mokata. The merchant girl thinks the other must have a thing for Mokata, but she really just has a thing for Fel. After their feast, Fel is energized, saying he could even beat up a dragon. Mokata gets worried hearing this and uses his appraisal skill on him. He is shocked to see that Fel has a massive boost to all of his stats. With all his energy, Fel decides to go hunting, but Mokata worries about being left alone. Fel casts his barrier on him, and telling him it would be enough to even stop a dragon's breath. Fel runs off, and Mokata is left behind. And trusting in Fel's barrier, he just prepares his bed and goes to sleep. Fel goes on a rampage through the forest, taking out a rock bird with a single slash, using lightning magic to destroy a giant deer, wiping out a pack of orcs with his magic, and even when an orc general approaches, it is no match for him. There's a chimera beast that appears, but Fel unleashes a devastating lightning attack against it, causing a huge explosion. In the morning, Mokata can't believe himself when he finds 3 mountains of monsters all around him. Fel agrees that he might have gone a little overboard, but he boasts about taking the chimera with a single attack, when he normally would have had trouble against it. Seeing the effects of the black wagyu, Mokata has no choice but to ban it from his menu. As they have a break for lunch, Mokata wonders if Fel uses magic when hunting monsters. Fel reveals he is particularly good with wind magic, having been blessed by the wind goddess. Mokata is amazed to see magic for the first time and wonders if it's possible for him to use magic as well. Fel tells him it should be possible if he has magic power, so he checks his stats and finds that he should be able to use magic. He asks Fel for instruction, but Fel just tells him that he needs to just think about it. Mokata thinks this means imagining it and tries using a fireball, but nothing happens and he becomes embarrassed. Fel shows him how mana flows within his body, and after a while, he manages to shoot a fireball, although it's super weak. Fel comments on his training method, suggesting he should get experience from fighting monsters. Mokata is worried about getting hurt, but Fel gets annoyed and carries him off. They end up finding some goblins, but there is a whole village of them. Mokata worries there are too many, but seeing that he is a coward, Fel howls and draws the attention of all the goblins. They start getting chased, and Fel tells him he now has no choice but to fight. He leaves to find the goblin boss, and Mokata is left alone. Mokata attacks using his fireball, but as he tries to run, he trips over. As a goblin jumps at him, he is actually protected by Fel's barrier. He keeps throwing his fireballs, and eventually throws one that is quite powerful. He collapses after using all his mana, but Fel reappears to finish things up. When he wakes up, he has trauma from the experience, but Fel says he should thank him for helping him use magic, and even sense that he has leveled up. When Mokata checks, he finds he has even gained the fire magic skill. As a congratulations, Fel has brought the Goblin King. Although it's not edible, he brought it back because it contains a magic stone. Seeing as magic stones can be traded for a lot of money, Fel thinks he should be rewarded with another feast, especially wanting the wagyu steak again, but Mokata refuses the request. Mokata is dizzy from the lack of mana, so he decides to just buy some food instead of cooking. It's an assortment of sweet breads, but Fel wants to have meat instead. Mukata insists that he is too exhausted, so Fel settles for the bread. Despite not being meat, he finds it to be good, and even asks for more. Mukata tells him if he eats too many sweets, he could get cavities or diabetes. But Fel tells him that is impossible, since he is blessed by the wind goddess. He is immune to any sickness and other ailments. Fel gloats about being blessed, and Mukata thinks it's not fair since he is already so strong. Mukata begs to be blessed as well, and we see that the goddess seems to be watching. There is a commotion at the next town when Mukata approaches with Fel. He quickly shows off his guild card, saying that Fel is his great wolf familiar. When Fel tries to correct them, Mukata goes along with calling him a great wolf so they attract less attention. Fel suddenly talks telepathically to him, annoyed at being called a great wolf. The guard warns him that he will be held responsible for problems that Fel causes. When they get inside the town, Mukata suggests they need to find a map, so they can know where they are going. He leaves Fel behind outside the inn, and heads to a bookstore. He finds a book that explains magic, but when he asks for the price, he is told it costs 7 gold. He is shocked at the price, but the man tells him it's a rare book, and Mukata thinks that paper must be valuable in the world. He tries the library next, but after hours, he still has no luck trying to find a map. When he gets back to Fel, Fel is annoyed he is late, saying he is starving, so Mukata quickly buys some food from his shop. Fel is blown away by the fried pork, but when Mukata makes his own dinner, Fel can't help himself, and demands to have some of it as well. The next day, Mukata visits a tavern. There are a bunch of rowdy adventurers, and Mukata approaches a group to ask questions. He orders a round of drinks for the table, and they happily talk to him. They tell him about the different kingdoms, and when he mentions that he doesn't have a map, the men reveal that they have a map that was passed down by an older adventurer. They show it to him, and say that since they have already memorized it, they offer to sell it to him for 1 gold. Mukata agrees to buying it, and they part ways. After the men have left, the other adventurers laugh at him, revealing that he got scammed, because the map is just a common item that can be bought for 1 silver at the guild. Fel comforts him, saying they will make more money, and Mukata decides to head east, to the country next to the sea, but Fel is more interested in the seafood they'll get to eat. Meanwhile, the wind goddess Nenri watches over Fel, and she is curious about Mukata, who managed to form a contract with him. Seeing all the sweets they are eating, she wishes to have a taste of them for herself, but she knows she can't just intervene in the world. However, the thought of it is just too much, and it drives her mad. The pair go flying through the forest until Fel comes to a stop. Fel finds it strange he is covered in injuries, but Mukata tells him it's because he dashed so quickly through the forest. He wonders if they've arrived at the sea, but Fel tells him he stopped at a lake because he had a craving for fish. Mukata wonders how they can fish without a rod, but Fel uses his lightning magic on the lake, and all the fish float to the surface. Mukata starts collecting the fish, finding some trout, and he wonders if it is the same as fish from Earth. Fel tells him to collect the pink fish, saying that it makes his tongue tingle. Mukata thinks the color is suspicious, and when he appraises it, it turns out to be a poisonous fish. He throws it back, and refuses to cook it, not wanting to mix poison with his cooking, so Fel has no choice but to agree. He starts a fire, and as he buys some other ingredients, Fel keeps pestering him to buy meat, but Mukata keeps turning him down. Mukata starts preparing the fish, thanking a video series he watched about cooking fish. He guts the fish, and cleans it thoroughly. After skewering them, and adding salt, he puts them on the fire to grill. He ends up cooking up a number of fish dishes, and when they taste the food, they are both blown away. Fel devours the food, and Mukata even cracks open a beer to go with the fish. They end up completely stuffed. Mukata becomes startled when he suddenly runs into a blue slime. Fel tells him not to be scared, since it's very weak. Mukata pokes it, feeling that it is kind of like jelly, and the slime high-fives him. He checks out its stats, and it's super weak, having only been born 3 days ago. It bobs up and down, and Mukata wonders if it's hungry, but he is all out of food. The slime ends up eating a bottle, and Fel says that slimes can even eat rocks. It starts eating other trash, but when it grabs the frying pan, Mukata quickly stops it. But in the end, Mukata is happy that it could eat all his trash, and the slime seems happy to be praised. He He starts petting it, and Fel tells him it has become his familiar. Mukata is confused because he didn't make a contract. Fel says that just accepting its feelings was enough, and when he checks his status, it has become his familiar. Fel tells him to name it, and Mukata ends up calling it Sui. A few days later, Mukata starts trying to learn earth magic, but he struggles to shoot even a pebble. Fel suggests that he needs some more hands-on experience, but Mukata is still traumatized from being chased by the goblins, and absolutely refuses. Mukata takes a break, and Sui tries to eat his bottle. Mukata notices that he is getting bigger, and is already level 8. He wonders if eating items from the other world will provide benefits, just like the food does. Fel starts getting hungry again, and Mukata makes an orc meat bowl for him, and even makes a bowl for Sui. Mukata enjoys a bowl for himself, but Fel quickly demands for seconds, and even Sui asks for more. After their dinner, Sui helps to clean the dishes, dissolving only the food scraps, and Mukata is thankful for his help. He decides to have dessert, to go with Sui's first meal, and he serves them some dorayaki, which is a pastry with a sweet red bean filling. Sui seems to really enjoy it, and Mukata is glad. In the morning, Fel gets a message from the goddess, and when Mukata wakes up, he shares the message that he received. He tells him that the wind goddess Ninri is willing to bless him, but there are a few conditions. He tells him that he would need to pray and offer sweets from the other world once a week. Fel goes on to tell him that it would be impossible to give him a full blessing, so he would only get a minor blessing, but it would still be enough to make him immune to all status ailments and even boost his magic. Mukata thinks it's a great deal and instantly decides to accept it. He wonders how he can pray and make his offerings, but Fel tells him he can use anything as an altar, even a rock on the ground, as long as his feelings are conveyed. For the first offering, Fel tells him that she wants the dorayaki, as well as some cream and melon breads. Mukata can't believe she is demanding specific items, but ends up preparing them and offering them to the goddess. The items vanish, and he receives the blessing. Meanwhile, Ninri gets hold of the sweets, and she can't believe just how soft and sweet it tastes. She quickly devours it, and becomes sad when it's finished. She tries some coffee that Mukata sent, and she finds its bitterness pairs perfectly with the sweets. She reaches for the other sweets, but thinks she should savor them, but in the end she can't control herself, and just devours them both. Back with Mukata's training, he is able to shoot a larger stone, with much more speed and force, thanks to his blessing. Sui has also leveled up to level 13, and Mukata wonders if it will be able to evolve eventually. He keeps practicing, but gets tired when he runs out of mana. He has some chocolate to help him recover, and he even gives some to Sui. He waits for Fel, who seemed to have gone to investigate something, but when he returns, he notices that they were eating without him. Mukata shows him the chocolate he ate to recover, and Fel suddenly claims to be tired from running. Mukata doesn't buy it, but Fel tells him he is tired from carrying him every day, so Mukata has to order some more for him. As he eats it, Mukata gets a message from Ninri. She calls it a divine message, but she just wants some chocolate as well. Mukata mentions how it hasn't been a week since his last offering, but Ninri insists on it. Mukata reluctantly sends her the chocolate, and Fel suddenly decides it's time to go. Mukata asks if they are in a rush, and Fel has a suspicious look on his face. But that's where this video ends. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.